Hello and welcome to the Racing Room. It's Ronan Group back into the hot seat this week with the usual suspects: Anthony Kaminskis, Tony Calvin, and Harry Stewart Moore. Lads, I hope you're well this morning and in fit and fighting form for the week ahead. AK, are we feeling good?
Feeling good, pal. Yeah, feeling good. I've got my peppermint tea here. It's all go.
Start as you mean to go on. Excellent. As mentioned, I think at the top of last week's podcast, I was away skiing in Austria, but I did manage to catch the podcast, all 1 hour and a half of it now, mind you, lads. It did take me 2 goes. A couple of observations. I must commend you three on the handling of the Burns case. I thought was very excellent. Very excellent. A well-known phrase. Weeding out the complexities of that case was very good, and I heard a lot of people mention that on social media. So well done. And AK, my head was in my hands when you nearly made another Irish geography gaffe, with your reference to where Dundalk is on the Irish map.
Yeah.
I think you just about saved that one.
I just about saved it. The last one, it's all the Sterling up there. It put me off, to be honest with you. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. You probably wouldn't go far down the main street in Dundalk if you started mentioning that it wasn't in Ireland. El Paso, as they call the town. And to mention, I think, Harry, you said at the start of the podcast, that you didn't think I was much of a skier.
I was just worried about you and those around you, Ronan. I don't know why. I just was. Well, I'm very pleased to see you appear to be back in one piece, at least from the shoulders up.
Indeed, but we went before we get going into the serious stuff. We went on. Decided to take a shortcut on our last day, and it was me who led the lads down an off-piste slope, black off-piste slope, and any notions I had about me as a skier were soon out the window. Because when I mentioned when I say we weren't, like, it wasn't a million that weren't going to get down the thing unscathed. It was definitely the case. We were absolutely in huge trouble. And lads, we have a funny story to tell probably for the rest of our lives, but it was very serious going there for a while, so we were glad to get out of that.
What was the issue? Was it just too fast, or the
off-piste is like, it's not a proper groomed slope. It's
okay.
So you're basically skiing down a place that's not maintained by the mountain or the people who organise the skiing. So it's kind of like it's the snow is amazing, but if you get stuck or it's difficult to get through, like, you don't have any help, like you're not insured or anything, it's probably not a great idea, to be honest. So
I know Anthony's bad to work for, but you didn't have to go on a suicide.
Oh, Jesus, I'm slightly worried about my risk manager's risk appetites here now. So yeah.
Indeed, right. Well, that's enough. That's enough out of me. Tony, would you like to kick off with the race review, and we'll get stuck into another meaty topic list this week?
Yep, will do. I'll deal with some off-track stuff first. The racing admin site has been in the news recently for not great news, but they had a glitch last week that saw 2 horses incorrectly eliminated from a Saturday race on Thursday morning. A bit embarrassing for all concerned, but that got swept under the carpet a bit, but that got sorted. On a more somber note, we had a few deaths this week, last week even. Irish Grand National winning jockey Eddie Harty, Zenyatta's trainer John Sheriffs, and for a lot of people in the industry, they would have known this guy, the former Sporting Life and Racing Post golf tipster Jamie Chapman passed away. He's had a real rough time of it in the last 10 years or so, with cancer and throat cancer, etc. I don't think he was able to eat for years and years. So that was a sad passing. And today we've got the anniversary of Michael O'Sullivan's death last year. So, like I said, not a great week for racing and betting. What else have we got? Oh, Cheltenham have prepared their hole. So presumably all good for the festival.
You mean repaired?
Prepared. Oh yeah, prepared. Yeah.
Prepared seems a very strange thing to have done to it.
Yeah, they repaired there. I'm sorry. On the track, I thought I saw AK raving about this actually. Patrick Mullins riding the bumper got plenty of column inches. He used a part of the all-weather track when winning on land and sea in heavy ground at Limerick. So AK thought that was the best ride he's ever seen, or the cleverest.
I thought it was just so. I just love the outside of the box nature of it. To be honest with you, I thought it was very sharp. In a previous life, when I was a young kid, I wanted to be a journalist, and the way he writes is pretty good. And always been very impressed with how he writes and his prose in that regard. So, and then obviously, just I think somebody had mentioned he did similar at Leopardstown at DRF, which I hadn't seen.
No.
So he's obviously, when you're talking about the marginal gains of some of these top people at the top of the sport, Mullins, trainer, jockey, etc. These lads seem to be thinking of everything, and I think it's you don't get to the top by fluke, I don't think, and it shows you the amount of work they're putting into finding edges, which is I thought was really impressive.
Yeah.
He runs the track every single day before he goes racing, Patrick.
Does
Just
he?
to one for the exercise of it, and maybe to lose a couple of pounds, but just to see where the ground is as well, as much as anything. So
See where the grounds are.
Yeah, a lot of people want that, what they called a loophole. They want that closed. So I'm not sure if that's going to be in place again. But yeah, that was a clever move. We had an incident at the start when a 15-to-8 favourite, Love and Namor, unseated as the tapes went up at Chepstow on Friday, was deemed a runner. Rightly so, but a lot of people were doing the old chestnut and didn't get a run for my money, etc. But yeah, that caused a lot of comment. But yeah, it was the right call as the kind of like rules stand. And there was on that card, I think there was a couple of Dan Skelton drifters that boiled some piss on that card. But I asked somebody who follows the market very, very closely, and he said he didn't think there was that much in it. It's the old chestnut, it was odds on the day before and etc. etc. There were marked drifts, but he actually thought they were okay. So a lot of people will disagree, but that's that. Anyway, on to the real action on Saturday. Alexei won the Kingwell Hurdle, relatively unimpressive style. It gives you some idea of how open the champion hurdle is this year. He's still only 20s for that. Ben Pauling had a very good day at Ascot, had a treble with the Jukebox Kid, Monjui Boy and Fiercely Proud. At Haydock, Manlaga won very well. JP Horse, Nikki Henderson. She's a Fred Winter Triumph Hurdle possible. We'll get the weights for Cheltenham this week, I believe, and we get the Grand National weights tomorrow as well. So a big week for the handicappers in the coming days. Dan Skelton won the novice grade 2 with Dalston Ladd. Haydock, and there was a real bone of contention with Haydock. The ground at Haydock was given a soft, heavy in places just after 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, and that was changed to good to stop after the second race. Far from optimal for punters who wanted the slot merchants, including myself included. So yeah, a lot of people were unimpressed by that change of going. At Ascot, John Bond was very tenacious in seeing off Pictory. Judging from Nicky Henderson's comments, he's not sure to go to the Ryanair, but he's still the third favourite for it. But so we'll have the usual Willie won't he Cheltenham discussions about that horse. Willie Mullins had a 5-timer at Goran. Imperium Passe won the Red Mills, and that could be the Ryanair next as well for that one. And very quickly on Sunday, Fantasy World, 103 rated, 600 grand recruit from the flat, and very short of the Triumph Hurdle betting, blew out at 130 on his hurdling debut for Nicky Henderson at Musselburgh. And My Immortal was a 40-to-1 winner at the Grand National Trial at Punchestown. And I think that's about it for the racing review.
very good. Thank you, Tony. We'll kick off with the topics, Jads, and start off with where else but Constitution Hill. The saga continues. So a few different strands to this story as the week developed last week, I guess. So Willie obviously stirred the pot a bit by deciding that he will enter in his daddy long legs. And I think Nick Henderson was having a go back saying, bring it on, that sort of thing. But then I guess the real part of the story is when the question was asked of could the horse be balloted out of a maximum field, and it seems it's a real possibility given there's 32 entries in a maximum field of 14. So it looks like there's been plenty of back and forth between you guys on the WhatsApp group. I actually haven't traveled all day yesterday on the way back, just didn't get to get a grips with the kind of discussion here of what needs to happen for him to run. I'm not sure if you have yet, AK, or what? No, what's going to happen? Or still wondering about it. But maybe let's talk about it in general of how much of someone messaged me yesterday, one of my mates, and said, "Does Nicky Henderson not look like a bit of an idiot here, even if the horse does get a run? Just the way this whole thing is played out. What do we think of the whole kind of saga in general?"
If yeah, I think there's various things to say about it. I think if the race was a standard all-weather 4 grand to the winner race, we won't be having this conversation. We also probably won't be having this conversation if Willie Mullins could have entered some other horses, like he seemed to allude to. He might potentially have more than one. We were going to put it up the other day, price it, and say, will he get in, will he not? But there's so many permutations to it. It's an absolute minefield. And one of the evident things about it is, like, I'm still not 100% sure of what the story is here. I'm nowhere near 100% sure of what the story is and what chance he's got of getting in. And it's quite evident that various people who follow horse racing in even a lot more depth than I do, a lot of people just don't understand the process here and the ballots from the bottom and not the top. And there's various random things happening. One of the other things is that if other races divide from a stabling capacity thing, it's potentially a 12-runner race. So it seems to be absolutely all over the place. And I think it just shows that again, I always think that just a lot of things in this sport seem to be very short term and short term by nature. And the fact that nobody considered some horses might actually want to run for 40 grand, it's all typical horse racing for me, to be honest.
And you come in on the invades part of it as well, the actual day that if he does run, but you're hearing it potentially might be limited crowd there.
Yeah, someone quite close to that operation and the course contacted me last week and said, because obviously there were 6,000 students at Newcastle, I was told the students aspect of Southall on Friday is limited to 1,000. Now, I haven't stood that up anywhere, but the guy who told me that information is normally quite reliable. So that's an interesting sidebar to that. I think in all of this, I mean, when this race was put on and they gave 40 grand to actually get Constitution Hill there, I didn't even consider for one moment that it will be oversubscribed on the back of it, which is quite foolish because when you think about it, as Anthony alluded to, it's common sense if you've got horses able to run for 40 grand instead of the usual 4 grand. You know, it should have been quite anticipated. But yeah, it will be. Look, I think the horses, it will run. I mean, if 3 have to come out or whatever the permutations are, you can guarantee there'll be phone calls to trainers to just say, don't declare, and they might be given some incentive to do so, shall we say. But yeah, it's interesting. But the guy who told me about the 1,000, the 1,000 cap on invade students, which may or not be true, he gave me some feedback from the opening night on Newcastle below, which I hadn't seen publicised elsewhere. He said, quote unquote, that Friday at Newcastle, he said they didn't even turn the music down in the marquee inside bar when racing was on. Plus the Racecourse TVs just showed the Invades logo. No betting, no horses, no racing, no nothing. So thousands of people in those areas and literally did not know a race was on. So that was probably against, some of the claims that, trying to get the students back in when they didn't even have the races on the TV. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on Friday, whether they kind of like progress from the opening line as well. But as we said last week, all the betting metrics were very, very positive. And I spoke to someone from Tote stroke Britbet, and they said their numbers at Newcastle that night were very, very good as well. So clearly the students have got some interesting betting. So that's half the battle, I think.
Indeed. Sorry, Harry, did you want to come in on the initial Constitution Hill chat there, or
I think
did
it's
I stop you?
I think it's been pretty well covered by the other two, to be honest with you, Ronan. I think it's never underestimate racing's ability for there to be a rule somewhere that is going to scupper any kind of commercial endeavor. But I'm sure I agree with Tony. I think by hook or by crook, it would just be so embarrassing if the horse is balloted out after the noise that's been made about it. I think by hook or by crook, he'll be in the race.
Yeah, I think Charlie Johnson and Mark Johnson were in the Kingsley Claring were very critical about Southwell finding 40 grand for this race. And I think Charlie came on Twitter and said, well, why don't you just divide the race? Put in extra prize money and have two divisions of the same novice. I think that's the rules of racing doesn't allow that. So that's a non-runner. So it's one race or nothing for Constitution Hill on Friday.
Okay. Okay, and Tony, I know it's a mess of how we don't know whether it'll get in or not, and whether it does. But when will people, if people are listening to this, wondering when to check, it'll be Wednesday for Friday declarations when you'll fully know.
Yeah, you can track the decks on the BHA public racing admin site. So yeah, we'll know by 10 o'clock. That's on Wednesday when we know if he's definitely running or not. So yeah, there is a very highly illiquid Betfair market, and will he run or not? On last time I checked, it was like 1.3, 3.5, and 600 quid traded. So even the specials markets, the relatively interesting specials markets on Betfair aren't trading. So it's a real possibility he could miss out. But as Harry and I said, they'll get him there.
I just think regarding the betting market, I can't see that market taking off at all. I think it's a misjudgment from an interest point of view. I think when you saw betting markets like Will, DRF, Leopardstown, Day One, Go Ahead, everyone had an opinion because look at your weather app. Oh, I know someone who lives in Leopardstown. It's raining. There was constant updates about it. Like that had all the ingredients, I think, for an actually really interesting turnover betting market. You wouldn't even have known, or we didn't have a big strong opinion either way. I'd say the day before, like it was pure jeopardy, whereas this is very niche, I think, and it's there's so much unknown information and so many permutations. Like from a betting perspective, this won't take off, I don't think.
No.
Indeed. So we see how it plays out. Let's go on to our next topic, lads. And Johnny Dineen to return to the Cheltenham betting ring next month when he will stand for Fitzwilliam Sports after the bookmaker acquired the famous Sean Graham race pitch for £325,000 in an online auction on Friday evening. Is this another very shrewd PR move from the bookmaker, AK? What did you make of this?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really, really smart decision to get Johnny involved. Essentially, if I was Bet365 sponsoring the podcast, I'd be less happy. But I think it's quite smart and quite shrewd. Know Johnny fairly well from the odd chat and a few WhatsApps and stuff like that. Probably know Paul a little bit better. I met Paul recently enough. And we were talking about Racecourse pitches, so it's probably no surprise to me. What would you say about this? Yeah, I think it'll get people down there. I think in that area, it'd be very interesting to see which way they go about it from a betting perspective, because they probably have some of the cards facing down and some of the cards facing up when they're looking at some of these races, I'd imagine. And my understanding of that area is it's bet very, very soft in that area. There's plenty of margin on the board, and it'll be interesting to see which way they go about things. I think the Graham's pitch has been for sale for a good while now. I was talking to them about a year ago. The Grahams, by the way, just in general, all three of them essentially, they're all. I get on with them all. Absolute gentlemen. I really, really can't stress that enough. I think they were of the opinion that they're happy enough to be out of the UK GC facing side of things from an admin perspective, I think. So that pitch has been for sale for a while. I think from a purchase point of view, I think the purchase price is probably slightly overs, but it's really important to understand. Say, like, if you own a business and you've got 325 grand to spend, if you want to pay that to yourself, it's not worth 325 grand in real terms. It's worth a hell of a lot less after taxation. My favorite topic. So you can probably pay overs a little bit from a reinvestment point of view. I think it is probably slightly overs, but I think they'll get enough PR out of it. I also think, I don't know how common knowledge it is. I think it's fairly well understood that Paul would have worked at the Racing Post, and I think I'm right in saying this, that he formulated the show Up in the Ante that got Gavin Lynch involved originally, and then he left by the time Gavin left, and I think Paul recommended Johnny as the host of that podcast, as the second host. That's gone unbelievably well. So there's an established probably relationship there anyway, and if you're a small bit for Up in the Ante, they're going to have to get Jesus Christ, I think, or somebody equally important, I'd say, to replace Johnny. I think it's like following Sir Alex Ferguson. I'd say at Manchester United, it's going to be a tough gig for whoever's there if Up in the Ante keeps going. I think so. It's a very good podcast. So yeah, interesting move. See what happens. Maybe good to have another bookmaker in the ring that knows a bet.
Yeah, it's
Tony, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, it's just a very, very cute PR move, isn't it? It's going to be all over the Racing Post, all throughout Cheltenham. You're going to have a Johnny Dineen, David Jennings style ghosted column, how you got on today, etc., what you're going to do tomorrow. But yeah, I'm not sure if Johnny's in the shape to do 4 days on the stall at Cheltenham, is he? Judging from that couch to 5K running video that did the rounds last week. But yeah, it's like AK could probably vouch for it. I mean, if you are standing for 4 days solid at a business like Cheltenham, it would take some toll on you physically, wouldn't it?
How long are you there before and after, AK?
My bugbear about the UK meetings. Cheltenham, we're getting there about 8:30 in the morning.
God.
And I can never say the word, but the Greek, is it gyros, whatever it is, whatever that food is. The van doesn't open till 10:30, so it's a long 2 hour wait for that van to open. And we get out of there 6:30, maybe 7:00.
Yeah, that's a long day.
I'll give you some information on it. Last year, obviously, was the first year we stood. We got a really nice house for the staff and myself. Pool tables, dartboards, and saunas, jacuzzis, and everything. And by the time we got back to it, we just all went to bed. It was like everyone was just so knackered.
Yeah.
You just go straight to bed and then get up and do it again in the morning. Like, it's just the lads that can do getting to the track at 8:30 in the morning and then going out on the lash and then getting to the track at 8:30. I don't know how you do it, because I was knackered, absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
So
one thing Johnny has got going for him, he's a teetotaler, so he won't be doing that.
This is true. I'd say he might be joining me at the Greek van at 10:30. To be honest with you, that could happen. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. We'll stay on the kind of theme of on-course bookmakers, and we'll deal with the video that Simon Nott posted on X that got a good bit of traction, a little tale he told from Ascot on Saturday. And we're just asking, what does this tell us about how bookmakers are regarded today? So Simon got on and was talking about the bet that was taken with an on-course bookmaker for a £5 win and £15 place, but it was input as £156. So a fat finger, essentially. The punter got paid out, and when the mistake was made, and the punter was asked then to refund the difference when he came back, but he refused and just walked off, apparently. So we're just wondering, are all bookmakers classed as fair game these days? Harry, do you want to kick us off with this one? Did you catch this?
I did see it. It's the punter's revenge for stale prices gate, I imagine. The No, it's not acceptable. Of course, it's not. It'd be one thing if the mistake had involved, as I was involved in the big case, if the mistake involved actually handing over the correct stake. But when you know you haven't handed over the correct stake, he went to the other
That's the best telltale sign.
yeah, to pick up the winning, so that the staff didn't realize what had happened. I think the most extraordinary thing is to go back in those circumstances, presumably hoping that another chronic mistake would be made to his or her benefit. I think it's a him from the way Simon was talking about it. No, it's rotten, but it's it's just the way that some people, and it's not just in bookmaking, it's just the same way that some people work. They just think, oh, what an enormous stroke of luck, and that they better take their luck when they can get it. And they're able to sleep at night like that. Well, good luck to them. But no, it's not remotely acceptable.
In the money, I know the monies in this case are not huge, but if there was a bigger differential and it was like thousands instead of a couple of hundred, would Star Sports have any recourse?
Oh, absolutely. Because he didn't. I mean, on so many different bases. One is what is the actual contract? Well, it's not a £153 bet because you didn't hand that over as your stake. So there isn't a contract for it. Even if there was a contract for it, you'd then be well within, I would have thought, the doctrine of mistake, because when the punter tries to pick up the money, he knows full well that he didn't hand over the stake for a £153 bet. So we're into mistake territory. And yeah, I mean, there are countless get into arguments about consideration, whether there was enough consideration for the £153 bet. There probably wasn't. So I'd say there are about 3 or 4 different principles on which that punter was not legally entitled to that money under contract law. But ultimately, as you say, not vast sums of money. I think the ring manager came in, didn't he? He didn't get involved.
Yeah, over here as well.
And I imagine it's just mayhem there. And they just thought, well, what are we going to do? We're going to serve him with a writ. Just an unfortunate episode. It's Jeff Banks had one not very long ago, didn't he? About the guy who paid out the wrong figure. And you feel sorry for the member of staff who I'm sure isn't getting a grilling on either occasion, but will feel responsible for it.
I do feel sorry for that member of staff for sure. Anyone who wants to listen to that, I think we covered it in the episode entitled "Robbing Banks." I think I think our podcast title that day. But we have it in Ireland as well. I think there was an instance we had after about 6 months where a member of staff on one of our pitches, it was actually at Leopardstown, put through a fiver bet as £5,555 or euros or whatever. So that was some difference. And now it got beat. I think it was on a 40-1 shot as well. I was ringing the missus saying we're gonna have to sell the house. Dave O'Reilly's flat fingered a bet. I'm gonna have to sell the gaff. But that got beat. But we had one other instance in Ireland where a lad, he must have been late 20s, and then he's come up to get paid. It was a fat finger, similar to this one actually, where I think the payment was going to be about 900 quid, I think. And he's come up with all these pals as well. Now I can get my back up in these situations. So I don't, if they think people were going to back down in instances like that when you bring your pals, that doesn't happen. What you do in Ireland is you inform the bookmaker on either side of you. So you inform 2 bookmakers once you're aware of the mistake. So I'd imagine they were aware of that before the race, but the customer has left the pitch, so you can't find the customer in a big crowd, etc. or whatever. You inform the 2. I think in England it's a betting ring manager. In Ireland it's less so. There's one guy usually dotting around, but you inform the bookmakers around you. Now, the easiest way I have always found to get to make people be honest in that situation is just point at a guard over there. We'll call the guards over. They can deal with it. They scarp it pretty quickly at that point. We had a lad early on in the early days putting it up on Twitter, I believe. and saying these guys are robbing me. And as soon as the guards were called, the account and the tweet disappeared. So you get people trying it on all the time. It's theft at the end of the day. It's from my perspective. It's just and people want it everywhere with the bookmaker. And as Marlo Stansfield says in The Wire, it's the other way.
Look, I should have checked with you beforehand, actually. Someone mentioned to me yesterday, I won't say who it is because they actually said, have you now got software that flags up states that are not normal?
Unusual, yeah. So we have
in
it
this
on
instance,
ours.
156. Nobody has 156 quid bet unless they're emptying their pockets and for pennies. So you have got, so for example, that would have been flagged up on your system as one to double check.
I think it would on ours. I think that the issues you can have is when, say, like 20 quid becomes 200 quid. So like they're not irregular numbers. So irregular numbers, you can have something in place where it'll flag up. Becomes an issue as well from a time perspective when someone has, I don't know, 23 quid on an 11 to 8 shot that wins and then wants to reinvest all the money onto the next horse or whatever. And it's like, here's 48, 78. And you're like, and the system's just like having a meltdown just because it's another unusual stake. So it's, there are things in place, but they're not absolutely guaranteed to pick up everything basically.
The point I made is that the problem with this guy is, I think, and a lot of people came out in support of the guy who refused to give the money back. The on-course books are obviously very different from the big online firms, but it's the kind of like what the online firms do get up to, making you go through hoops to get your money, etc. And I'm sure Harry has had numerous occasions where you've had to go to court to get the money. People lump all bookmakers in together when obviously the on-course and the off-course are totally different. But just reading the responses to Simon, when Simon was getting a lot of grief for actually just even pointing out, the obvious. But a lot of people were just saying, no, tough, their mistake, they pay for it, which is...
You know what, the flip side of that to all the people that said tough is, at a big meeting like a DRF, this might blow people. There's two things blow my mind. One, online, the amount of people that open an account and don't place a bet, like that number is a lot higher than people think. The thing that blows my mind about the racecourse is the amount of people, say like at a big meeting where you do 2,000 tickets in a day, I'd say of those 2,000, 40 people would be my guess. 40 people, it's probably even more, have a fiver each way, give you 20 quid and just walk off with a betting slip. They don't wait to get the tenner as part of the change. And I hear it all the time. And I'm not on course as much as I am. I used to be, obviously, with the online. But the amount of time my lads are like, "Hey, pal, you forgot your change." Like, we're constantly calling people back, giving them the correct change because they've not waited for the extra note or something like that. And the flip side of doing what you've done is just calling nobody back for the change. You can see the amount of honest on-course bookmakers shouting people back, saying you've not took your correct change there, and paying lads. If you want to live in that world, it's a sad little world to be living in where nobody's honest. So I think it's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Indeed. I was going to get you to come in there, Tony, but you kind of did it already. I thought it was very insightful, the comments underneath Simon's piece. To just gave you a very good insight into where the attitude is towards bookmakers. But we've dealt with that nicely there. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is a Paddy Power clinches ID deal to boost retail betting experience. So just read you a betting.co.uk story that came out on Friday. So Paddy Power has reportedly tried to stave off the headwinds faced by retail betting by agreeing a collaboration with ClearStake. The open banking platform authorised by the Financial Conduct Authority helps improve player verification through digital banking as a method, and it is an essential part of customer due diligence. While there has been a trend of more UK-based players taking their betting activity online, there are still many who prefer to use traditional land-based venues, and the ClearStake Pact is designed to ensure that Paddy Power can still meet the demands of players who prefer to visit brick and mortar establishments. So, how much of a positive is this for Paddy Power AK? Do you want to come in there first?
I think Paddy Power will keep closing betting shops. I don't take any joy in that. They're closing plenty around me in my area, and for me, it just comes back to the amount of stuff that people are willing to provide to place a bet. And I've given some numbers previously on our site that once you interact with people in that regard, a lot of them disappear, and I just see a decline in market and tools coming in place that will further decline that market. To be honest with you, it's that's just the way I see it progressing.
Yeah, as I said, I think we mentioned before, Paddy Power in Ranelagh was closed. I think you mentioned on the podcast, and the one close to me here in Trim is closed as well. So it's a hard
Newbridge, I
one to
think
take
as well.
on.
Someone was saying Newbridge or Kildare. I think Kildare Town has
Yeah.
gone. Should there be only bottle spots left in Ireland soon? Well,
Is there any legal element to this, Harry?
Not that immediately jumps out at me, I have to confess, no.
they're probably trying to streamline a process, is my guess, where they have to ask for stuff at whatever it is, 2 grand or whatever that number is. Just people, I just know people just don't want to provide that. Like I don't see any change in the fundamental. So I don't know. If any of you's been in a betting shop lately, I,
Yeah.
I just don't see anybody in them. I don't know who the customer base is anymore. I just don't see. I just don't see it. And then you've got people like Dawn Butler campaigning for less betting shops. Like she probably thinks she's doing a great job, but it's nothing to do with you, Dawn. It's market forces and yeah, I don't know. I think it's just I just don't know why anybody would want to own a betting shop on the high street. To be honest with you, it seems like an absolute money pit to me.
Well, let's leave that there and deal with the latest episode in the Lord Allen kind of data rights situation and deal with a story that came in the Racing Post on Friday. Sources in Britain and Riyadh have told the Racing Post that the standoff on data is coming to a head and that a breakout is expected within the week that could end the impasse. A source in the Thorberg Group added it would have been irresponsible to sign off on a race day data without scrutinising and understanding how it would impact the sport's commercial income. Should a position be reached that would allow an independent board to be created, the process of hiring new directors, which began last year with an initial ambition of having them in place by the end of 2025, could be restarted. Among the racecourse figures in Riyadh for the Saudi Cup and Asian Racing Conference is Jim Mullen, chief executive of the Jockey Club, who said that while he was unaware of timescales for solving the board issues, work was continuing to try and make it work. Jim said, it's febrile and there are people who are trying really hard to get a solution. This isn't something that's just being ignored. So, Harry, can we be somewhat positive about this development in this situation?
Well, I mean, those sound like febrile is an interesting choice of word, but it sounds like they are confident that some kind of development is going to happen, and I think that's the most frustrating thing is when these things just go on and on and on, and yeah, even sometimes negative developments are better than just constant uncertainty. And if Lord Allen is going to have to walk, then let's not drag out any longer. But look, actually, we're all just guessing, really, aren't we? On this, this is the problem with negotiations. Is you've got both sides saying, I think it is rather like Betfred and TRP saying, "Oh, I'm sure a deal will be done." Well, you go, well, how do you know? I mean, if a deal is going to be done, it would, presumably would have been done, and it takes two to tango on a deal. So it might just mean that there's a change in the mood music, that someone is making some concessions for the first time. I read it as perhaps over optimistically, as perhaps the media rights owners were starting to back down on what might previously have been a very fundamentalist approach to the use of media rights. But, it's anyone's guess, really, Ronan.
Indeed.
That
Tony?
febrile comment stood out to me as well.
Yeah.
That's quite a harsh term, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. So we can be. I'd share the same optimism, then, lads. Tony? Do you want to come in or AK on that as well?
Not really. Harry summed up. We don't know, do we? I suppose if you're looking at it from a cynical point of view, it could well be that there might be movement because Lord Adams said, "I can't deal with this. I'm off." So the process can move forward without him, as it were. But yeah, it's just a mess that hasn't been solved yet.
Yeah. And I guess if he did get it over the line after all this messing, it would be a big win for him at the start of his tenure and kind of set the agenda nicely for him that he's not taking any messing. But we'll see how that goes. Let's get on to the black market. As is always the case, it seems every week. Another story from the Racing Post last week. Black market betting is rampant on an international scale, and domestic gambling regulators need to think globally to tackle it. A major racing conference was warned on Tuesday. Hong Kong Jockey Club chief executive Winfried Engelbert Brezgis. Sorry, Winfried. Sorry.
I deliberately put him in there just to throw you. That is a bad one to pronounce, that isn't it?
Engelbert Brezgis. Apologies, Winfried.
Just call him.
I've done my best. I've done my best. So he's speaking at the 41st Asian Racing Conference in Riyadh, urged racing authorities to hammer home to their governments that focusing on tackling illegal betting in their own countries would fail to yield a noticeable downturn. He said illegal wagering is rampant, its growth is exponential. Illegal bookmakers offer better prices to give credit and crypto, which makes tracking money laundering difficult. The regulators are looking at this nationally, but they need to see the international component. So it is a case of coming together to change views. We've done, as I said, we've kind of messing, but we've talked about this so many times on the podcast. Do you want to come in on that, or is there anything new here?
Yeah. First of all, I think I'll have a go as well. Winfried Engelbrecht Brezgas. He sounds like a left back that Arsene Wenger would give a few minutes to in the Carling Cup third round, doesn't he? Like he's just bed him into the team there before he gets shipped out to Port Vale on loan.
Number 56 on his back.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to. I agree with some of the stuff. I don't agree with some of the stuff. I don't think credit and crypto is the way to go at all in any respect. I think it's just friction. I think people will avoid the black market if they don't meet friction in the legal market and onerous friction, and I think that's the biggest problem I think we've got. On the current trajectory, I think the black market is going to grow exponentially, as I've said, and I think the numbers will be significant double-digit numbers for overall share of the pie. I think the black market will be bigger as a collective than the biggest individual bookmaker in the UK by some way very soon, if not already. On the current path, I'm fairly negative on stopping the black market. To be honest with you, I think it will probably take over on the current trajectory. Unfortunately,
yeah. We could bring in that Chris Fawcett tweet as well. I probably should have mentioned it as well. I don't know if you need to come in again here.
Yeah,
you were tweeting about it. Just read out the tweet quickly if you want to come in after. So. Latest GC figures for third quarter real event betting GGY decreased by 18% year on year to £530 million. Number of bets decreased 6%, while the average monthly active accounts in Q3 decreased 7%. Betting in the legal UK legal market is collapsing. So you're kind of tweeting a thread on this during the week as well.
Yes, tweeted some random stuff on this, I suppose, but I just think real event betting GGY of 530 million in a population of 65, 70 million or whatever I just think it's absolute buttons. And I think it's going through the floor. And I keep going on about the trajectory and the rate of acceleration that I can see. and it's massive, lads. It's absolutely massive. I think it's really going to struggle. I don't know what the big firms are doing about this, to be honest with you. It feels like it needs to be driven by the big firms, but they're all just I don't know. It's hard for me to put into words. Like you're talking about, those drops are massive, and the compounding drops as well. They're not in isolation. Like it's very worrying. It's very worrying. I think you're talking about these tax changes as well. The casino one from April, the sports one from the following year. I just don't know what's going to be left after that, to be honest with you. I just don't think there's much of an industry left after that. I'm quite negative on the industry in general. In the, like I'm hugely negative on what's going to happen, and I've seen nothing to think that I'm wrong in that regard. It might be it's yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's highly worrying for people employing people in the legal market, working in the legal market, and customers that want to play in the legal market are dwindling due to, I think the overriding thing is just the amount of friction. Um, if I was, I know Andrew Rhodes has left. We don't know where to, but probably. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not good. It's not good. I'm fairly dour and negative about it, I'm afraid.
Lads, Jen, Harry, Tony, want to come in there at all before we kick it on?
I think AK's cheered us all up enough, possibly. But
Let's I'll give AK a bit of a rest there because he's done a few in a row, and we will come back to the Flutter story there. Tony, I might bring you in on the potential or concerning news regarding Nottingham. So another story in the Racing Post: Jockey Club's hold on Nottingham Racecourse and even the track's future survival could be in doubt after the venue's local authority owner said it's considering selling the 134-year-old site. A lease arrangement between Jockey Club and Nottingham City Council is set to end in 2029 and may not be renewed, with the racecourse's long-term operator now aware it faces a fight to retain control of a venue that is this year set to stage 20 fixtures, all of which belong to the racecourse as opposed to the Jockey Club. Arena Racing Club has emerged as a potential buyer of of Nottingham, which joined the portfolio of Racecourse Holdings Trust, the predecessor of Jockey Club Racecourses, after the council purchased the almost 300-acre property in 1965. Tony, do you want to come in on this one?
Yeah, Lee Mottershead is quite well. Well, actually, we'll come on to another side of Lee in the question section, but Lee's very well informed when it comes to the Jockey Club racecourses and ARC. So presumably, someone, one of those two parties alerted him to this story. And Lee subsequently said that there might be a third buyer in a company called Orchestrate, who I think he said recently bought Toaster. So it sounds like racing will probably continue there from 2029 onwards. Probably more so because apparently it's situated on a floodplain, so it wouldn't be ideal for people purchasing it to put houses on, etc. The one thing that really struck me about this, it's quite a vague story, and Lee doesn't get everything right in this respect. I remember back in December he was making claims that the Jockey Club racecourses were looking to buy our racecourses. Well, that might be true, but I can't particularly see it at the moment. Maybe if they sell Kempton and they got some money in their coffers, they might do. But one thing that really struck me is how many other Nottinghams are out there. How many are there could be coming up for renewal from 2029 onwards?
Yeah.
So how many other courses could well be vulnerable for being sold for land development and house development. So that's something that really stood out to me, is the potential for other Nottinghams that are out there in a similar time frame.
It stands out to me just in the Jockey Club are in a real awkward place because number one, they've got very little money. Number two, they've got Arc, who they're trying to, I suppose, wrestle with in certain respects for causes and the inverted commas future of the sport. But then again, I think if you're buying racecourses, this is sorry again, I don't have to be negative here, but this is like for me, this is a sport in the early stages of collapse. Why do you want to buy loads of assets in a sport that's like it could collapse in on itself very quickly, and then from a funding point of view? It's like, what do you do? Do you hand the keys to Ark, who might not be the most suitable custodian, should we say, for the future of horse racing, potentially? Or do you try and do it yourself with no money on a sport that's short-term funding-wise is probably going to struggle, long-term interest-wise is probably going to struggle. It's kind of it's not a great place to be in, I don't think. Like if I was Ark buying land on a floodplain, sorry, if I was Jockey Club, buying land on a floodplain is probably not ideal for the future potential of that land. Same with Ark. I'd be trying to buy somewhere like a Chelmsford or somewhere like that, where you can guarantee pretty much racing and products essentially, because that's what it's going to come down to. That's what it ends up being, whether it's in 5, 10, 20 years. It's going to be product. I think it's not going to be a lot of this filler stuff isn't going to be for growing the sport, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that things develops for Nottingham there. Second last topic, lads, before we hit the questions. The Betfred blackout continues as sides remain far apart in the media rights standoff. So, Racing Post reporting Betfred will once again be able to broadcast racing at Ascot in their betting shops and online on Saturday. Obviously, this was the Ascot meeting last Saturday, or Saturday just gone. But that remains the only concession made in the ongoing standoff between the bookmaker and the media rights company, the Racing Partnership. The bookmaker's customers have been able to watch action only at Ascot from among the 21 courses which fall under the TRP banner since Betfred's media rights deal expired at the start of the year. Neither side has been willing to discuss the situation, but the Racing Post understands that the two sides remain a long way from reaching an agreement. Harry, we've been kind of dealing with the story since it started, I guess, and it doesn't seem to be developing positively, we say.
No, it's an odd one, isn't it? I wonder to what extent It'd be very interesting to know to what extent this was hurting Betfred's racing turnover. Maybe they are. I mean, this is complete conjecture, but maybe they're learning the lesson that it doesn't affect it hugely, which you would have thought would be
that's really interesting. If it is
quite dangerous. But that's complete conjecture. For all we know, it's affecting them badly and putting them under pressure. But I would have thought, I suppose, if I was at Arc, that these negotiations can turn into games of chicken, really, can't they? And I would have thought that Arc would be more concerned about TRP, more concerned about Betfred, just sort of actually finding some way to live life post media rights agreements with TRP. That would be my concern if I were them. And it's gone on longer than we expect. It has to be said, they've got Ascot, haven't they, because of their special relationship with Ascot, Betfred. So that's a carve out, and that'll be a big carve out. But it goes on. The Martin Crowder's interview the other day was quite interesting on the subject. Again, it's one of these ones where people keep saying, we're very confident a deal will be done, but I never really understand what that means, because if you're very confident a deal will be done, it ought to really have been done by now, and unless what you're saying is it's just sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. But I don't think we're in dotting the I's and crossing the T's territory by the sounds of things. This has gone on too long. So we wait and see.
I think it's really interesting, the carve-out part of it, right? Because if Arc had the cards here to play, there'd be no carve-out, I'd say. I think that the power here is with Betfred for me. I think Arc, TRP, whatever, I think they really need Betfred. Given the retail landscape as well. It's really interesting, like you say, what is the impact on Betfred? Is it materially, is the impact enough to
heal? Yeah,
or basically just go yourself, because it's really
yeah,
interesting. If people realize that they can save whatever 2.5-3% of turnover on horse racing, and the difference from a GGY perspective isn't
that great.
it
Yeah,
doesn't affect turnover that much. Like that the whole game is done then from a media rights perspective when people realize that, if that is a realization.
mm,
um this is absolutely fascinating. The longer it goes on, I think the stronger Betfred get, but we don't know what the impact is internally on Betfred, I suppose.
no, and they will be keeping that as close to their chest as they possibly can,
Yeah,
because they will not. The one thing you don't want in these situations is your counterparty finding out how much it's hurting you.
yeah, and then yeah, it's just interesting. It'd be real interesting. I wonder if I could going 2%, 1.5%, and if you're just going, no, just don't need it. It's it's then what happens to the like the
Yeah.
whole house of cards could come down in that case. Like it's this is potentially massive, but obviously it's going to be dictated probably on what that impact is
Mm.
from a turnover perspective.
That's the fourth area of racing where racing can collapse in this podcast alone, AK. Doing well, you're doing well today.
I know, yeah, well, I'm not being blasé about it. I'm just trying to like work out the permutations of where it can happen. To be honest, I don't want racing to collapse.
The media rights, the media rights value is not of dropping is not the same thing as racing collapsing. There will be some people who say that it might actually assist racing in the long term, and so yeah, it'll be how this plays out. I agree with AK. Be very interesting. I mean, it's odds on that they'll just come up with a deal that no one will ever find out the terms of. But the longer it goes on, the more interesting it becomes.
We're very likely to be discussing that again on in future podcasts. One more topic before we hit the questions. AK, I'll give it to you. The Flutter share price crashing, and a similar negative for Entain and Evoke as well. So the Flutter share price is now nearly a third of what it was at its 52-week high. What's going on here? I don't know, AK. I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, but
No, sorry.
I haven't read the article myself. But there's on the front page of the Business Post over the weekend. They were saying Flutter had got one over the Calci, the obviously big rivals over in the US and worldwide, I guess, with regards to what's going on. I haven't actually read the piece, so I can't set you up there at all. But what's actually happening with Flutter here if the share price is crashing?
What's happening? The market's probably reacting to the US facing companies. The US is fascinating because they have this threat with prediction markets, which are essentially betting exchanges, which are essentially emperor's new clothes in my world. Um, I think Flutter wins this long term. It just depends what the short term impact is. There's the other big thing with America is when online casino opens and when that happens, because some of these numbers could look very, very small when that if and when that happens. So I'd be real positive on the Flutter share price, and probably to a lesser extent, but similar vein, the Entain share price. The ones that have I think that the roots in America will be okay. Um, I think prediction markets I don't think is anywhere near the threat as being illuminated or exemplified or whatever. I think they see these boards in America popping up, an American government, and they get somebody from Fangio, somebody from Flutter, someone from Entain, some academics, and then they have Kalshi, and I think Donald Trump Jr. might be on the board of Kalshi or something like that. I think post this regime in America, some of this stuff will look quite different potentially. And I just don't see, when you talk about the numbers, the volume and stuff that the poly markets and Kalshis do. I just think there's a lot of hot air behind it. I think I'd be quite positive on Flutter in general and the Flutter share price in general, especially at the rate it's at now.
I hope you're right. I mean, I only found out about this when Owen Ryan tweeted the graph for the Flutter share price. I've got some. I've got some Flutter shares on the US stock market, which I was given about 2012, and I regularly kind of like, well, every few months I check this share price. I haven't done anything with them for like 14 years or something like that, but I was actually, well, I was quite disappointed when seeing its share price, and since Owen flagged it, it's gone down even further, and it's gone. I had to just look now, and it's gone down even further today. So, not sure what's going on. So I hope you're right.
I think they're down about 60% in 6 months. They had a market cap of definitely above $40 billion. Anyway, I don't know what the height of it was. It was down to about 20 when I last looked. 21 billion. The fundamentals of the company are very, very strong, I think. And they deliver products that the mass market want to bet on as well, which is good. I can never understand. I suppose that when you talk about Evoke and whatever that Evoke share price is at now, like I'm reading in the week that William Hill are doing a bonus for Grand National or something of, I don't know what it was it $500,000 or something? Like, it's fucking, sorry, that's like 0.8% of your market cap. Like, you probably want to stop doing stuff like that. Like, I don't, some mad stuff going on, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'd be quite positive on Flutter long term and less so on prediction markets. But they're probably benefiting from a taxation point of view at present versus the Flutters of this world. But I think longer term, when sense probably prevails, assuming that happens longer term, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, Tony, go in again, says AT. Just buy some more and gain.
He can buy some off me if he wants after
All right, lads, question time. Harry, you can take this first one from Ben's Never in a Rush. I guess he's pointing towards a thing a lot of punters might have a bit of a grievance with, but he's asking, can commentators say when they think a horse wasn't trying, or even if a horse was trying not to affect its handicap mark, is there a legal reason? Like, could they get sued? What do you reckon there, Harry?
There's not a legal reason that stops you saying it. And this is a confusion I think some people get into about, for example, the rights free speech. It's about the consequences of saying it. It is defamatory to say that someone has cheated at a sport, particularly in a professional sport. Saying that a horse is not, that someone is trying to stop a horse or preventing a horse from running on its merits is a breach of the rules of racing, regardless of the reason for it. So it is defamatory to say that. Now, there are grey areas depending on exactly what's said. You'll sometimes hear commentators say things, like, they might say, doesn't appear to be giving everything or something like that. But that still leaves room for it to be a tactical reason or for the horse to be, carrying some, not racing properly, racing green, whatever. But no, you're not going to get commentators that say, I think that horse was stopped for obvious reasons, which is that you are then going to have to prove that it was stopped, because that's the way that the law of defamation works. Once a statement is defamatory, the burden of proof flips unusually in civil proceedings to the defendant, and then you have to prove that the horse was stopped, and that's not very easy to do. So on the basis that they don't want to lose their jobs or get sued, commentators are very unlikely, which is to say, I think it will never happen, say on live television or any broadcast, that they think a horse has been stopped, just judging by the ride. Because apart from anything else, they don't have things like, they don't have the full picture, do you? You don't understand why a jockey might be riding a horse in that way. And, you don't have the betting records. It's just, it would be crazy.
I think in the world we live in of innuendos and cliches, it's much better. Like application of cash. See that example from before as well.
It's amazing, especially with Cheltenham in mind. Everyone just dances around, don't they? And get euphemisms like "ridden with an eye to the future" and etc.
Yeah, no, I mean it's full of it. One of the things that I think is so strange about horse racing is that purposefully stopping a horse and giving a horse a ride that is not designed to give it the best opportunity to win. One of those is considered absolutely abhorrent. You mustn't do it. It goes to the very heart of the sport. The other of those is considered something that happens pretty much every day. They both have the same effect.
Yes. Yeah. It's mad. It's mad, the kind of like, the terms that get bandied out. And
yeah.
But I think there's an acceptance in racing that this goes on a daily basis, but we can't say it.
I'd imagine as well there's been some what do they call it? They call it is it the Streisand effect or something, where like there's probably been some very defamatory things said about JP McManus on Twitter, for example, over the years. But I think flagging it in with defamation proceedings is probably akin to the Streisand effect, maybe, Harry. I don't know.
I just don't know what that means, AK, and I'm worried. I'm worried. As a result, I have no idea what you just said. I've heard of the Streisand effect, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's I think it's named after Barbara Streisand, where
you'd hope so.
There's two.
I think she tried to censor something and about a house or something. It was like, aerial photographs of a house.
Story. You turn it into a much bigger story than it would have
been. Yeah. So she tried to stop like someone like Google or something taking pictures of her house from above and putting them online. And then it just made like millions of people look at a house basically from above.
I see. Yeah. So it's kind of shooting herself in the foot by trying to. Yeah.
There you go.
To read out the definition of the AI overview definition, the Streisand effect is a social phenomenon where attempts to suppress, censor, or hide information or ironically cause it to receive significantly more publicity and media attention.
Yeah.
So I think I have the name of the podcast there. Sorry, lads, we're moving on. Shockster. Tone, do you know the final day for qualification for the Grand National? Can they still qualify after the weights which come out on Tuesday?
Yes, March the 24th is the cut-off point.
And that's the amount of runs they need to have over and 3 miles, that sort of thing.
You need to have qualified by then. Yeah, March the 24th is the cut-off point.
Okay, Gambling Man 92. On the subject of Lee Mottershead not going to Saudi, I presume that Lee doesn't write about any races that feature Godolphin, Sheikh Hamdan, or Judemont, Qatar Racing, etc. No stable visits or anything. Or is this some sort of virtual signaling nonsense from him? Tony, you can jump in here.
Yeah, well, I'll come on to the most important part of this in a moment. But Lee, as a gay man, has written in the Racing Post that he doesn't wish to cover Saudi racing because of their attitude towards gay individuals, and also the human rights record. Now, he hasn't pressed that up, as far as I'm aware, in recent years, but as a matter of fact, he wrote it in the Racing Post, and clearly he stands by that because nothing has changed measurably in that sphere. What I will say is that it's increasingly clear that every other kind of like jurisdiction in racing is, similar claims can be leveled at that. So, and I think the most recent one is increasingly America, isn't it? I mean, it's not a great it's not a great nation at the moment, isn't it? There, so you can make claims about Saudi or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a personal choice. A lot of kind of like racing TV people like Nick Luck, Ollie Bell, Tom Stanley, etc., went out there for the Saudi Cup. It's entirely a personal choice whether you go with that. I don't think it's a matter of virtual signalling. It's your own personal stance. So that'd be. But what I'll have to say here, and I'll only say this because I got alerted the fact I was I was name checked in the conversation. Now I'm loath to actually give them any credence, credibility, name check whatsoever. But apparently in the Bar Stewards podcast last night, they did a hatchet job on Lee Mottershead, and I listened to that section of their podcast yesterday. This morning, just before this podcast. It was about 15 minutes worth, and it was absolutely disgusting. They really went for him in a really nasty, vindictive manner. saying he hasn't got racing its hearts. Like you said, he's nasty, like vindictive in his own manner. And this was Lee Keys that basically said this. Now Lee wants to have a look at himself. He wants to have a look into that podcast, and he probably wants to delete it, and he probably wants to apologise for Lee Mottershead, because what he said about him goes against everything that Lee Keys says about mental health. He often goes on about the importance of mental health towards people. I know for a fact that Lee Mottershead hasn't listened to that podcast yet, and he won't do. But if he did do, it honestly it's oversteps the mark. Now, I was also alerted to this by the fact that Chris Fawcett and Vaughan Lewis said these comments were unacceptable towards Lee Mottershead. And having listened to it, I agree with that. I think he should apologise. He should take it down, and he should practice what he preaches when it comes to people's mental health. Because Lee Keys makes a big song and dance about he has mental health problems, which is sad to hear. So with that in mind, he should be more mindful than he is when making comments. And like, I haven't listened to that podcast for ages because I get a lot of kicking on it on it sounds like a weekly basis, but I don't really care. But but what I would say is that is overstepped the mark, and he needs to apologise.
Okay. We have a question from David as well. Ascot is one of the world's great race courses, yet it's the only major track that still blocks the public from the winners' enclosure. What exactly is being protected here, and why is racing's most prestigious venue shutting out the very people we're trying to engage? Tony, you want to grab that one again?
Um, I couldn't really get my head around this question really. Ascot, like most courses, has a public area where you can look into the winners' enclosure, etc. It's on steps, but it obviously is separated. But no, as far as I'm aware, Ascot is not that dissimilar to other tracks, because you do get public areas where you can stand around the paddock and watch the horses go around, etc. But obviously, you can't get as close as other courses, because obviously there's with Royal Ascot, obviously there's security considerations, etc. So no, I think that puzzled me a little bit. I don't know where that came from.
I was there. I was only been there last year. I think I met you, Harry, at the parade ring. I think after
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same day. Like it's
You had very sore feet, is what I remember.
oh
Yeah.
geez, yeah. The worst bit about it is how bloody big it is. I thought like it's
Yeah.
climbing from the bottom to the top in 30 degrees and
Yeah, in your
dressed
wool.
like
Yeah.
something out of Oliver Twist wasn't enjoyable. But what's not public? I don't understand what's not public. You can see the parade ring and
Yeah,
quite
I
easily.
can I
I don't
can make the
know.
head to tail of that.
I don't know.
No, I'm not sure either. Yeah. Do you want to take this quick one as well, Tony, from Darth Vader's dad? With John Bond winning yesterday, does that pretty much guarantee Factify will be supplemented for the Gold Cup and John Bond goes Ryanair?
Well, obviously, the background to that is that JP owns both John Bon and Factor File. He also got other horses for the Gold Cup. Listening to Nicky Henderson on Luck on Sunday yesterday, it's not a done deal where if John Bon even goes to Cheltenham. Obviously, he had a very hard race on Saturday. So who knows? I mean, as I understand it, JP makes the calls, even in Willie's stable. So JP McManus will decide, and not the trainers involved. So who knows?
Simon Cohen is asking, would racing implode if Constitution fell in the flat race? Harry, what do you reckon would be the fallout there?
I think it will survive quite Constitution. I was going to say that Constitution Hill isn't going to fall, but then I thought that is not a sensible thing to say. And so for animal welfare purposes, I'm not going to say Constitution Hill is not going to fall in the flat race.
Get
I think
in.
we're getting to the point where people there are two types of people, Constitution Hill, that care massively. One are the huge supporters of the horse who like, the idea of horses with great legacies, and the others now who are just really enjoying what they hope is a car crash. And I suspect that were Constitution Hill to have a disastrous race, it will just excite one group of those lot more than the other, and if it has a fantastic race, it'll excite the other group. So I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to. I think the question was probably tongue in cheek, but I don't think that. I think racing will survive. I mean, we don't even know the horse is going to be in the race at the moment. That might be this. That I think will be the height of the all ironies, is the amount of time that's been spent talking about this, and if the horse doesn't race, it will be quite extraordinary. I mean, even down to all the people. We were yesterday, all of us, trying to work out the rules on the ballot, and there were people doing it on Twitter, and the BHA, to their credit, put up a list of the ballot and the order they were in. Nicky Henderson said he basically has absolutely no clue whatsoever as to how the ballot works or whether Constitution Hill will be in it. But it gives you an idea of how complicated it all is.
It just occurred to me, actually. I think because the press are going to have to find a new angle every day leading up to Friday. The falling angle was obviously highly unlikely, and hopefully it never comes to pass. But one thing that does occur to me, it's not a million that he refuses to come out the stalls, is it?
Yeah.
So that could be the real.
Haven't they been asked about how he's coming out of the stall? I think he's gone to the stalls version of Yogi Bryson or whoever it is that puts you out of the stalls.
They should have run at Entain, shouldn't they? That would have been some crack.
Yeah. There's a race at Glorious Goodwood that doesn't have stalls. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, they wouldn't have come out the stalls very much, and it's on a kind of like a noisy race day. It's not for us, for me, for people of a certain age like me, it could be a Hamlet moment, couldn't it?
If he doesn't get in, he could always go speed dating anyway. So
yeah, but yeah, it's like I said. I think the will he come out the stalls will be a headline on a tabloid this week, I think.
It's a laugh or cry moment, really. If he stood still in the stalls, as you say, Harry, there's two types of people there. You're either laughing or crying. I have to say, I think I'd be laughing. That's just so comical.
I think if he doesn't come out the stalls, at a certain point, you just have to respect the horse and just realise that I think the horse is you're just taking the mick out of everyone.
Yeah, you'd have 6,000 invades people not understanding how he was declared a runner.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Yeah.
Can you imagine the betting fallout if he didn't go out the stalls?
Unbelievable.
I wouldn't like to be a steward making that call.
Oh, wow.
Is he deemed a runner?
Oh yes, of course, because now they can undo it afterwards, can't they?
I really want that to happen, actually.
Well, I think we know which category of those two groups Tony's in, anyway.
I'm all favour of chaos in every group of life.
Tony, you can take the last question from Vendors of Charisma. It's the old chestnut of race times. So I know this is an old one, Tony, but how can we take the sport seriously when we only have 2 meetings in the UK today and we still have races going off at the same time? This is such a negative impact on turnover. 4:42 at Newcastle finished at 4:51. The race at Musselburgh, the 4:50, started just after scheduled off time. It was 35 seconds in as they passed the line at Newcastle.
Obviously, it's suboptimal, as they say. There's normally some kind of like process where the BHA ring the courses, etc., and say stagger it, delay it a bit. But as I said, I went back to the guy on X and said it might have been fading light, and they had to get it off very quickly given the timings. But yes, I think the idea of clashing races is something that really kind of like grinds people's gears. And not least bookmakers, because they want staggered races and staggered trade.
The turnover at Cagnes-sur-Mer is off the charts there. So every cloud.
Indeed. All right, that'll do it, lads, for another episode of The Racing Room. All that's left to say is if you're having a bet this week or you're interested in having a bet this week, do check out the AK Bets Big Prices tab for all biggest prices on the biggest events. My thanks to the lads for their contributions. Thanks for you for your questions. And of course, thanks to you for listening. We'll be back at the usual time again, this time next week. Cheers.